The massive chamber fell silent as the holographic display showed the invasion. 3 entire star systems had gone dark. In less than a month, no distress calls. No survivors, just empty space where civilizations once thrived. Admiral Thexvon of the Korvox Empire stood at the center podium, his forearms crossed. Over his armored chest, the threat is real. The Void Collective has awakened. And they are coming for us all, around the circular chamber. Representatives from dozens of species watched the display with growing fear. The Void Collective ships moved like a dark tide. Across the star map, each vessel a perfect geometric shape of black metal. And cold intelligence, they were machines ancient and merciless, and they had been dormant for 10,000 years. The Korvox Empire pledges 300 battle cruisers. Dexon announced, his voice echoing through the chamber. We will not let these machines destroy what we have built. The Thessian delegate rose. Next, her crystalline body reflecting the chamber lights. The Thessian Alliance commits 150 dreadnoughts and our entire defense fleet. We stand together, one by one. Species after species stood to pledge their military might. The Zactor Confederacy offered 500 warships. The Plenary Collective sent 200 ships, equipped with their best plasma weapons. The Ordani brought their carrier groups. Every major power in the galaxy was mobilizing for war. Ambassador Lisa Chen sat quietly in the human section, watching and listening. She was a small woman compared to most species in the chamber, wearing a simple gray suit. Her dark eyes tracked each speaker, noting the numbers, the ship types, the strategies being discussed. And what of humanity? The Exvon turned his gaze toward her. Your species joined the Galactic Council only 20 years ago. Surely you understand the gravity of this situation. Chen stood slowly, her movements calm and deliberate. Every eye in the chamber turned to watch her. The humans were still newcomers, still mysterious. They had arrived in the galaxy with impressive technology, but had remained mostly quiet, watching and learning. Humanity understands perfectly, Admiral, Chen said, her voice clear and steady. We know what it means when machine intelligence decides to eliminate organic life. We've seen it before in our own history. Then how many ships will you send? Demanded Azar Commander, his scales rattling with impatience. We need numbers, we need firepower. Chen smiled slightly. We will send the Indomitable. The chamber erupted in confused murmurs. Thexon leaned forward. 1 ship, did you say? 1 ship, that is correct. The Indomitable will represent humanity's contribution to this defense. Outrage rippled through the assembled delegates. A plenary commander stood, his tentacles waving in agitation. This is an insult. We are facing 2,000 enemy vessels, and humanity sends 1 ship. Are your shipyards damaged? Asked another delegate. Do you lack resources? If you need assistance, Chen raised her hand, cutting through the noise. Our shipyards are fine. Our resources are sufficient. We are sending exactly what is needed. Dex Van's face darkened with anger. You expect 1 human ship to make a difference against the Void Collective? Do you not comprehend what we face? We comprehend perfectly, Chen replied. Better than you might think. Then explain yourself, Dexon demanded. Why insult this council with such a pathetic contribution? Chen gathered her data pad and prepared to leave. Indomitable will arrive at the Designated defense point in 4 days. When she does, you will understand. Until then, I suggest you finish your preparations. Wait, called the Theshan delegate, at least tell us what kind of ship this is. A battle cruiser carrier. Chen paused at the exit. Indomitable is unique. There is nothing else like her in the galaxy. She looked directly at Thexvon. Trust me, Admiral. When the battle comes, you will be grateful she is on our side. With that, Ambassador Chen left the chamber, leaving behind a room full of confused and angry alien commanders. In the days that followed, the galaxy mobilized for war. Fleets from a dozen species converged on the Kepler expanse, strategic point along the void. Collectives projected path. Thousands of warships took up defensive positions, creating a wall of metal and firepower that stretched across light years. Supply ships fed ammunition and fuel. Medical frig prepared for casualties. Command carriers established communication networks. It was the largest military gathering the galaxy had seen in centuries. And through it, all the alien commanders wondered about the humans. What was this indomitable? Why would they send only one ship? Was it arrogance, or did they simply not care about the rest of the galaxy? On the 4th day, long-range sensors detected a massive energy signature approaching the Kepler expanse. Ships across the Allied fleet went to alert status, weapons charging, crews rushing to battle stations. Is it the Void Collective? Demanded Thexfun from his command ship. Negative, Admiral, replied his sensor. Officer, the signature is different. It's a human vessel. Visual on screen. The display flickered to life, showing empty space. Then reality tore open as a ship dropped out of faster than light travel. The Indomitable had arrived, and she was like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. Admiral Thexvon stared at the display screen, his 4 hands gripping the command rail so tightly it began to bend. Around him, his bridge crew had fallen silent, all eyes locked on the image. Before them, the Indomitable was enormous. At 12 km long, she dwarfed every ship in the Allied fleet. She was bigger than the Corvex super dreadnoughts, larger than the Thesian colony ships, more massive than anything Thexan had seen in 40 years of military service. But that was not what troubled him. The ship's hull was smooth, almost elegant, with sweeping curves and minimal surface features. There were no obvious weapon ports, no missile tubes, no energy cannon arrays, no armor plating designed to deflect incoming fire. What kind of warship is this? Whispered his tactical officer. It is not a warship, Thexavan said slowly. It looks like a mobile station, or perhaps a colony ship. Communications crackled to life. Allied Fleet Command, this is Captain Sarah Akinquo of the human vessel Indomitable. We have arrived and are ready to assist in the defense. The voice was calm, professional, and entirely too relaxed for someone about to face 2,000 enemy vessels. Thevon activated his command channel. Captain Akinquo, this is Admiral Thexvon, Fleet Commander. I must ask directly, what type of ship is the Indomitable? Our sensors show no weapon systems. There was a pause, then Akono replied with what sounded like amusement. Admiral, the Indomitable is exactly the type of ship we need for this engagement. You will see soon. Enough, Captain. I am looking at your vessel right now. It appears to be unarmed. Appearances can be deceiving. Admiral, other commanders on the fleet Command channel began to chime in. Azar. Captain's voice was sharp with anger. Is this a joke? Did humanity send a cargo ship to a battle? Perhaps it is a hospital ship, suggested a plenary commander, though that makes little sense. A Thessian voice, cold and precise, cut through the chatter. I am detecting unusual energy signatures from the human vessel. The power readings are extraordinary. Whatever that ship is, it has more power generation than my entire fleet combined. The van felt a chill run down his spine. That much power in a seemingly unarmed ship. What were they humans planning? Captain Okonkwo, he said carefully. Perhaps you could explain your vessel's purpose. We're mobile research and development platform, Admiral. We study advanced physics and develop new technologies. You brought a research ship to a war. We brought the right tool for the job. Akono's voice remained frustratingly calm. Now, if you will excuse me, we need to take up our position on the tactical display. The Indomitable began to move. She glided through space with surprising grace for such a massive vessel, heading directly toward the front of the Allied formation. What is she doing? Demanded a Zactor commander. She will be directly in the enemy's path. Dex Van watched in disbelief as the human ship positioned herself at the very center of the defensive line, the most dangerous position in the entire formation. Captain Okonkwo, you are placing your vessel at extreme risk. That position will receive the heaviest fire. We know, Admiral, this is exactly where we need to be, but you have no weapons, no shields. You will be destroyed in minutes. Admiral Thekson, with respect, we know what we are doing. Position your fleets on our flanks. We will hold the center. This was madness. Thekson looked at his tactical officer. Can we override their navigation? Force them to move to a safer position? The officer shook his head. Their systems are too advanced. We cannot interface with their ship. Angry voices filled the command channel. Commanders from a dozen species were shouting at the humans, demanding they move, calling them fools and cowards. Worse, through it all, Captain Okonkwo remained silent. Finally, Thekson raised his voice above the chaos. Enough. Humans have made their choice. We will proceed with our battle plan. All ships, maintain your positions. He closed the general channel and opened a private line to the Indomitable. Captain, I do not know what your species is planning, but I want you to know this. When your ship is destroyed, it will be on your head, not mine. I tried to warn you. Noted, Admiral, Okonkwo replied quietly. But we will not be destroyed. Trust me. Trust? How can I trust a ship with no weapons? You will see, Admiral, very soon. Now, the van closed the channel and turned to his sensor officer. Time until the Void Collective arrives. 4 hours in. Counting, sir. 4 hours. 4 hours until the battle that would determine the fate of half the galaxy. And sitting at the heart of his defensive line was a massive unarmed human ship commanded by a captain who seemed completely unconcerned about facing certain death. Thekson had fought in dozens of battles. He had seen bravery and cowardice, genius tactics and terrible mistakes. But he had never seen anything like this. Either Captain Okonkwo knew something he did not, or the humans were about to learn a very painful lesson about galactic warfare. The hours passed. Slowly, crews across the fleet checked their weapons, ran combat drills, and said prayers to their various gods. Tension was thick enough to cut with a Blade at 1 hour until contact long. Range sensors detected the void. Collective fleet at the edge of the system. 2,000 ships moving in perfect geometric formation, cold and precise. And unstoppable, all ships to battle. Stations, decks and ordered, prepare to engage across the fleet. Weapons powered up, energy shields activated. Fighters launched from carriers. Thousands of personnel prepared to fight and die. The Indomitable remained silent and still, sitting at the center of the formation like a massive, mysterious monolith. 30 minutes to weapons range, called the sensor officer. Dex Van watched the enemy fleet approach on his display. So many ships, so much firepower, even with the combined might of the Allied fleet. This would be a difficult battle. Many would die today. 10 minutes to range. The Void collective ships began to accelerate, racing toward the Allied lines at frightening speed. 5 minutes. Dex Van gripped his command rail again. Whatever happened in the next few minutes would change everything. The Indomitable's hull began to glow with a strange blue-white light. The first shots of the battle lit up space like a newborn star. Energy beams lanced across the void. Missiles streaked toward their targets, and the Allied fleet opened fire with everything they had. The Void collective did not slow down. Their ships absorbed the incoming fire, shields flaring briefly before the weapons struck home against their dark holes. Several enemy vessels exploded, torn apart by concentrated fire, but the rest kept coming. They are not even slowing, shouted Azir commander over the channel. Pour more fire into them. Vexfin watched his tactical display as both fleets engaged in full combat. His ships were holding the line, but barely. The Void collective vessels were incredibly durable, and their return fire was precise and devastating. Already he had lost 12 ships, and through it all, the Indomitable did nothing. The massive human ship sat at the center of the battle, that strain blue-white light growing brighter across her hull, but she did not fire a single weapon. Enemy ships flew past her, targeting the Allied fleet on either side, and still the humans remained passive. What are they doing? Dexon roared at his communications officer. Why are they not fighting? I do not know, sir. They are not responding to hails on the display. The Void collective began to recognize the Indomitable as a target. Dozens of enemy ships broke away from the main assault and turned toward the human vessel. Weapons charging. They're going to destroy her, Thivan muttered. Foolish humans. The enemy ships opened fire. Hundreds of energy beams and kinetic rounds converged on the Indomitable from all directions. The human ship was engulfed in a storm of fire that would have vaporized any other vessel in the fleet, but the Indomitable did not explode. The blue-white light flared brilliantly, and all the incoming fire simply curved around the ship, bending away like water flowing around a stone. Some shots curved so sharply they hit other Void collective ships, causing confusion in their formations. What in the Void? Texan leaned forward, his eyes wide. What kind of shield is that? His science officer stammered, checking his instruments. Admiral, that is not a shield, at least not any shield. Technology we understand. The humans are bending space itself around their ship. They are using gravitational manipulation. More Void collective ships converged on the Indomitable, hundreds of them now trying to overwhelm whatever was protecting the human vessel. They close to point-blank range, surrounding the ship, completely firing continuously. Then Captain Okonkwo's voice came over the fleet channel, calm and clear. All Allied ships pull back 1,000 km from our position immediately. What? Why? Demanded Theon. Just do it, Admiral. Trust me, you have 30 seconds. Something in her voice made Thex Van act without thinking. All Korvax ships, emergency withdrawal, move back 1,000 km now. Other fleet commanders, hearing the urgency, gave similar orders. The Allied fleet pulled back, creating a sphere of empty space around the Indomitable and the hundreds of enemy ships now surrounding her. 20 seconds. Akon counted down. 15:10. The blue-white light on the Indomitable's hull suddenly changed. Segments of the smooth hull began to open, revealing the ship's interior, but these were not weapon ports in any traditional sense. They were spheres of absolute darkness, each one a perfect circle of black that seemed to drink in the light around it. 5 seconds. 3, 2, 1. Activating. Universe screamed. That was the only way could describe it. His instruments went insane, alarms blaring across every system. Space itself was being torn apart from each of the dark spheres on the Indomitable's hull. Tendrils of distorted space-time emerged. They were not beams or projectiles, they were wounds in reality, gravitational whips that lashed out at the surrounding enemy ships. A Void collective cruiser was caught by one of these whips. The ship crumpled like paper, its 1,000-meter hull compressed into a ball of crushed metal no larger than a fighter craft. Another enemy ship was stretched, pulled apart lengthwise until it snapped like a breaking bone. More weapons activated on the Indomitable. Directed gravity wells opened in the midst of enemy formations, creating intense gravitational fields that pulled dozens of ships together. They collided at incredible speeds, tearing each other apart, creating clouds of debris that were immediately sucked into the gravity wells and crushed out of existence by all the stars. Whispered Thexan. They weaponized black holes. His science officer was frantically trying to understand what he was seeing. Sir, those weapons are creating and controlling micro-singularities. The power requirements alone should be impossible, and the precision needed to prevent them from consuming everything, including the Indomitable itself. Another weapon system activated. Beams of intense radiation lanced out from the human ship, but these were unlike any energy weapons the galaxy knew. They were hawking radiation, the energy that escapes from black holes. When these beams touched enemy ships, the vessels simply ceased to exist. They did not explode, they did not burn, they disintegrated at the quantum level. Their very atoms torn apart. The Void collective tried to retreat, their perfect formations breaking down into chaos, but the Indomitable was not finished. A new weapon emerged from the ship's central hull, a sphere that glowed with power so intense it hurt to look at. It was a Penrose sphere, extracting energy directly from a contained black hole through rotational mechanics. When it fired, a column of pure energy erupted across space, sweeping through the enemy fleet like a scythe. Everything it touched was vaporized. Shields, armor, hull, nothing could withstand it. The beam carved through 200 enemy ships in less than 10 seconds. The battle was no longer a battle, it was a massacre. In 30 minutes, the Indomitable single-handedly destroyed over 1,400 Void collective ships, the remaining enemy vessels. Their cold machine intelligence, recognizing certain defeat, attempted to flee. Some escaped, most did not. When the gravitational weapons finally powered down and space returned to normal, the area around the Indomitable was filled with nothing but debris and fading energy signatures. The Allied fleet sat in stunned silence, their own battle damage seeming insignificant compared to the destruction the humans had unleashed. Dexon stared at his display, his 4 hands shaking. In 40 years of military service, he had never seen anything like what he had just witnessed. The humans had not just defeated the enemy. They had rewritten the rules of warfare. Captain Okonkwo's voice came over the channel, still calm, still professional. Threat neutralized. Admiral, I believe we can stand down to alert status. The Void Collective will not trouble this sector again. Thefin found his voice. Captain Okonkwo, what is that ship? I told you, Admiral. The Indomitable is exactly what was needed. A pause. Now do you understand why we only sent one 2 days after the battle? Admiral Thexvon stood in the docking bay of the Indomitable, and he felt very small. The interior of the human ship was nothing like he expected. Most warships were cramped, filled with weapon systems, ammunition storage, crew quarters packed together for efficiency. The Indomitable was different. The corridors were wide and clean, with windows looking out into space. Walls displayed art and information screens. It felt more like a research university than a military vessel. Captain Sarah Okonkwo met him at the docking bay entrance, extending her hand. In the human greeting gesture, Thexon took it carefully with one of his 4 hands, mindful of how fragile humans appeared compared to his own armored form. Welcome aboard, Admiral, Okonkwo said with a smile. Thank you for accepting our invitation. Behind Thexon, a dozen other Allied commanders filed into the bay, all of them invited for a tour and briefing. The Theshan delegate, 3 Zactor captains, a plenary admiral, all the leaders who had witnessed the impossible battle. I must confess, Thexon said as they walked, I came aboard expecting to find a traditional military vessel. This is not what I imagined. The Indomitable serves multiple purposes, Okonkwo explained. We are a warship, yes, but we are also a mobile laboratory, a testing facility, and a deep space research station. We have scientists, engineers, and researchers alongside our military crew. They entered a massive chamber that took up several decks of the ship. Through transparent walls they could see technicians working on equipment that defied easy description. Spheres of contained darkness floated in magnetic field. Machines measured space-time distortions. Researchers studied readouts that Thexvon could not begin to understand. This is our primary research lab, Okonkwo continued. This is where we developed the weapons you saw in action. A human male approached, wearing civilian clothes and a friendly expression. Our guests have arrived. I am Dr. James Yarrow, chief scientist of the Indomitable. Thexon noticed that Okoro wore no military rank, no uniform, just simple clothes and an identification badge. You are a civilian? He asked. Of course, most of our crew are civilian researchers. We only have about 60 military personnel aboard. The rest are scientists and engineers. A Zetar captain spoke up. his scales rattling. With confusion, but your ship requires thousands to operate. How do you function with such a small crew? Automation, Akoro replied cheerfully. Humans learned long ago that machines can handle routine tasks much better than we can. Our artificial intelligence systems manage most ship operations. Humans supervise and handle decisions that require judgment or creativity. Akono led them deeper into the ship to an observation deck overlooking one of the weapon systems, a dormant micro singularity sat contained in a complex web of energy fields and gravitational lenses. What you saw in battle were weapons based on our understanding of extreme physics, Akoro explained. Warming to his topic, humans have always been curious about the universe's most dangerous forces, black holes, quantum mechanics, gravity manipulation. We did not just study these things, we learned to control them. But why? Asked the Thesian delegate, her crystalline form reflecting the lights. Why invest so much in such dangerous research? Akaro and LT Unc and GT, friendly expression faded, slightly becoming more serious, because humanity learned a hard lesson in our history. We learned what happens when you are unprepared for threats. Before we reached the stars, we nearly destroyed ourselves multiple times. Wars using nuclear weapons, biological weapons. We created artificial intelligence that almost wiped us out. He gestured at the singularity weapon. Every disaster taught us something. We learned that hoping for peace is not enough. You must have the strength to defend peace. So when we finally reached space and discovered we were not alone, we made a decision. Never again would humanity be helpless. Dexon studied the weapon, his tactical mind already racing through implications. How many ships like the Indomitable does humanity have? Akono and Akoro exchanged a glance. Currently just one, Akono replied. Just one. A plenary admiral waved his tentacles in disbelief. But with such weapons you could build a fleet that would dominate the entire galaxy. We could, Akono agreed, but we choose not to. Why? Fexfin demanded. With even 5 ships like this, humanity would be the most powerful military force in known space. Akinquo walked to a window, showing the stars beyond. Because, Admiral, humanity does not believe in overwhelming numbers. We believe in overwhelming capability. The Indomitable exists to protect, not to conquer. We built one ship that can turn the tide of battle. That means our resources, our people, our time, all of it can be devoted to building cities, exploring new worlds, creating art, advancing science, not just making weapons. But what if the Indomitable is destroyed? Pressed Azar, Captain, what if you face an enemy that can defeat even the ship? Then we will build another, Akoro said. Simply, or we will develop something better. Humanity's greatest weapon is not the Indomitable, it is our ability to innovate, to adapt, to find solutions that no one else has considered. He pulled up a holographic display showing dozens of theoretical weapons designs. These are concepts we are currently working on. Quantum entanglement weapons that strike targets across any distance instantly. 0-point energy extractors that could power entire planets. Dimensional fold generators that could move ships outside normal space entirely. The alien commanders stared at the display in shock, and the van noticed a growing sense of fear. You are developing all of these? The Thesian delegate asked quietly. We research Many things, Okonkwo replied carefully. Not all of them become reality, but we prepare for possibilities, Theman. Understood, now he understood why. Ambassador Chen had been so calm, so confident. Humanity had not sent one ship out of weakness or arrogance. They sent one ship because one ship was all they needed, and behind that one ship was the promise of more, of weapons that had not even been imagined yet. I must ask you directly, Captain Thexven said. Does humanity intend to conquer the galaxy? Okay. Conke met his gaze steadily. No, Admiral, we do not seek conquest. We seek only two things: freedom for ourselves and deterrence against those who would threaten us. Indomitable exists so that no one ever looks at humanity and thinks we are easy prey, and if others feel threatened by your power, then they are welcome to remain peaceful, and they will have nothing to fear from us. Akono's voice was calm but firm. But if they choose aggression, they will learn what you learned in that battle. Humanity has learned to weaponize the impossible, and we will do whatever is necessary to protect our people, the tour concluded. Shortly after, with each commander returning to their own ships, minds full of troubling thoughts, the victory over the Void Collective should have been a celebration. Instead, it had revealed a truth that changed everything. Humanity was no longer the newcomers, the weak species that needed protection. They had become something else entirely, a species that looked at black holes and saw weapons, a species that studied the universe's most destructive forces and learned to wield them. As the van shuttle departed the Indomitable, he looked back at the massive ship. It hung in space like a sleeping giant. Beautiful and terrible, he had come aboard seeking answers. He had found them, but now he had new questions, and they troubled him deeply. What else was humanity capable of? And more importantly, could anyone stop them if they chose a darker path? 3 months after the Battle of Kepler Expanse, Ambassador Lisa Chen stood before the Galactic Council once again. But this time the atmosphere was very different. The chamber was packed. Every species in the council had sent representatives, and many had brought military advisors. Galleries were full of observers, reporters and diplomats. Everyone wanted to hear what humanity would say. The story of the Indomitable had spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Some species told it as a tale of heroism and salvation. Others whispered it as a warning, a nightmare story about the species that could destroy reality itself. Artists created songs and paintings about the battle. Militarists studied the tactics. Children played games, pretending to be the Indomitable's crew. But beneath the fascination was fear. Chen walked to the central podium, her steps echoing in the unusually quiet chamber. She carried no notes, no prepared speech. She had been speaking to worried delegations for weeks now, answering the same questions over and over. Today she would address them all at once. Members of the council, she began, her voice steady. I know why you ask me here today. You want to understand what humanity wants. You want to know if you should fear us. You want guarantees that we will not use our weapons against you. She paused, looking around the chamber at all the different faces, the various species that made up the galactic community. 3 months ago, many of you thought humanity was weak. You thought we were newcomers who did not understand how things worked. You thought sending one Ship was foolish or insulting, she smiled slightly. Now you think we are too strong, too dangerous. The truth is, somewhere in between, a Korvax senator stood Ambassador Chen with respect. Your ship destroyed over 400 vessels in 30 minutes. You demonstrated weapons, technology that should not be possible. How can we not be concerned? You should be concerned, Chen replied bluntly, and the chamber stirred with worried murmurs. You should be concerned in the same way we are concerned. Do you know why humanity developed these weapons? Let me tell you a story about my species. She activated a holographic display showing images of Earth's history, wars, devastation, cities, ruins. Humanity almost went extinct. Multiple times, we created nuclear weapons and nearly destroyed ourselves. With them, we built artificial intelligence that turned against us and killed billions. We engineered biological weapons that created plagues. We poisoned our own world and watched our ecosystems collapse. The images shifted to show graveyards, memorials, monuments to the dead. Every generation of humans grew up learning about these near extinctions. We learned what happens when you are unprepared, when you are weak, when you trust that others will not hurt you. The chamber was completely silent now, all eyes fixed on the terrible history playing out on the display. So when we finally reached the stars and discovered we were not alone, we made a promise. Never again, never again would humanity be helpless. Never again would we be victims. Chen's voice was firm, passionate. The indomitable exists because we refuse to let anyone else dictate our survival. She exists because we learned that peace requires strength. A Theshan delegate spoke up. But strength also corrupts. Power leads to aggression. How do we know humanity will not use these weapons to conquer? Because we have been conquerors before. And we learned that lesson too, Chen replied. Human history is full of empires that rose and fell, nations that conquered others and brought only misery. We learned that conquest brings no lasting peace, no real security, only more conflict. She changed the display to show Earth as it was now, cities of glass and green spaces, oceans cleaned, and forests restored, people of different cultures living together. We learned to build instead of destroy, to unite instead of divide. It took us centuries and cost us billions of lives, but we learned the weapons we carry are not tools of conquest, they are tools of deterrence. Admiral the Zavin stood from his seat. Ambassador, you say deterrence, but deterrence requires others to fear you. You have accomplished that. What now? Do you simply wait for someone to challenge you so you can demonstrate your power again? No, Admiral Chen said, we offer you something better. We offer alliance. This caused a stir throughout the chamber. Chen raised her hand for silence. Humanity does not want to rule the galaxy. We want to be part of it. We will share our defensive technologies with our allies. We will help you defend against threats like the Void. Collective, we will stand beside you when danger comes, but we will not share our most advanced weapons. Those remain ours alone. Why? Demanded a plenary representative. If we are allies, why not share everything? Because Chen said carefully, we know what happens when weapons like ours spread. We have seen it in our own history. Once a weapon exists, it will be used. Once many species have singularity weapons, it becomes only a matter of time before someone uses them in anger, in fear, or By accident, the galaxy would not survive that. She looked directly at the van. We built one indomitable. We could build more. We could build 100 of them and dominate everyone, but we will not. We will build only what we need for defense and no more. This is our promise to you. A Zetar senator stood. And what if we do not believe your promise? What if we decide you are too dangerous to exist? The chamber went deathly quiet. It was the question everyone was thinking, but few dared to say aloud. Chen's expression did not change, but her voice became colder. Then you would make a terrible mistake. We do not seek conflict, but if you bring war to humanity, you will learn exactly what the Void Collective learned. We will defend ourselves with every weapon we possess, every technology we have developed, every innovation we can create. She paused. I hope it never comes to that. I believe we can all be better than that. The Zactor senator slowly sat down, his scales pale. Ambassador Chen continued, her voice softening again. The galaxy faces many threats. The Void Collective was only one. There will be others, pirates, rogue states, unknown dangers from the dark spaces between stars. Humanity wants to face these threats together with you, as allies, as equals. Laughed bitterly. After what we have seen, can any of us truly consider ourselves your equals? Yes, Chen said firmly, because strength is not just about weapons. You have things we do not have: diplomatic wisdom, cultural knowledge, resources, technologies we have not developed. We are new to this galaxy. We have much to learn, and we would rather learn it as friends than as conquerors or victims. She deactivated the display and looked around the chamber one last time. The Indomitable will remain on active patrol along the galactic rim. She will respond to threats against any council member. That is our commitment. In return, we ask only that you respect our sovereignty and work with us as partners. Chen smiled. We sent one ship and you were afraid. Imagine what we could accomplish together if we worked as allies instead of adversaries. The vote came 3 days later. After extensive debate, the Galactic Council formally offered humanity a full defensive alliance. The Korvax Empire led the vote, with Admiral Thexvon personally advocating for the agreement. Captain Sarah Akankwa was promoted to Fleet Admiral and given command of a new joint task force training allied personnel in advanced combat tactics and defensive strategies. The Indomitable departed Earth for her patrol duties, but she did not leave alone. In Earth's orbital shipyards, 6 new vessels were under construction, each one different, each one revolutionary, each one pushing the boundaries of what was thought possible. One ship was designed to manipulate time itself, slowing it in local areas to trap enemy fleets. Another could open artificial wormholes, appearing anywhere in the galaxy instantly. A third was experimenting with quantum weapons that existed in multiple states simultaneously. Dr. Akoro stood in the Indomitable's lab, studying readouts from their latest experiment with zero-point energy. Captain Akono joined him, coffee in hand, looking tired but satisfied. The council is still nervous, Akono said. They are not sure whether to thank us or fear us. Let them be both, Akoro replied. Respect born from fear and gratitude is still respect, and when the next threat comes, the one that is worse than the Void Collective, Akoro smiled. Then we will innovate something new. That is what humans do. We face the impossible and make it possible. Akon looked out the window at the stars, at the vast galaxy that was now paying attention to humanity. The council expected us to arrive with a fleet. They thought strength meant numbers, and we taught them different. Akoro said, yes. We taught them that strength means capability, that one ship with the right technology and the right crew can chain everything. Akono finished her coffee. The galaxy thought a single vessel could not matter. We proved them wrong. Far below on Earth, construction continued. On the new ships, engineers worked on weapons that would make the indomitable look primitive. Scientists explored theories that could reshape the understanding of physics. Humanity had announced itself to the galaxy, not with conquest or threats, but with a demonstration that could not be ignored. The fleet expected a battle. The galaxy mobilized thousands of ships. Humanity sent one vessel, and the galaxy would never be the same.